What if you could help others to find the power to heal themselves? Physically, emotionally, and spiritually.
When I started teaching my classes, it was in 2002, and I was just doing the past life regressions and contacting the subconscious part. But then as the time went on and we found how powerful this was and what we could do with it, a lot of the students began saying, you know, advanced past life regression doesn't really tell what it's all about. This is so much more than that. We think you should change the name. So it was a few years ago we decided to change the name to Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique. And this is the healing technique that we've now been teaching it, well, since 2002, that's 12 years.
What if you could time travel with them? Visit mythical places or angelic realms, other worlds, other galaxies. Help others to speak to their higher selves. You can. Dolores has taught thousands of people from across the world how to use QHHT, and now you can learn her method by going directly to dolorescannon.com. And don't forget to mention the discount code MORETALKS.
Established over 100 years ago, Watkins Books is one of the world's oldest and leading independent bookshops specializing in esoterica. We have the widest selection of esoteric books in the UK, and our friendly and knowledgeable staff are here to assist you in a unique ambience of our shop. So come and visit us in the heart of London as we're open every day.
Does your book, film, resource, product, or business change people's lives for the better? Hi, I'm Jackie Lappin, founder of Conscious Media Relations, a unique boutique PR firm that helps you connect with your mind, body, spirit, and conscious lifestyle audience in a big way. We reach 3,500 specialty media and all the key mainstream outlets in the United States. I invite you to explore our radio media tour that connects to 2,600 personal growth radio shows. There is just nothing else like it. Come check out our website and read our rave reviews.
The comments and views expressed on The More Show are those of the people that make them and do not necessarily reflect the view of Kevin Moore, The More Show, or this radio station and its affiliate or sponsors. This show is for entertainment purposes only.
Broadcasting from the UK and across the world online. You're now watching the UK's only alternative late night talk show, and I'm your host, Kevin Moore. For the next hour, I'll be covering subjects that will open up your mind and provide you with information you may have never heard before. On today's show, I'm joined with Julia MacDonald, who is a practicing medium, trance medium, and ordained spiritualist minister, who has been communicating with those in the world of spirit since a young child. Now, she has worked professionally as a psychic medium with a global clientele and additionally as a teacher, workshop and retreat facilitator since 1999. Now, she's received years of training to complement her natural gifts and has taught psychic development from beginning to trance levels. Julie joins me today to discuss her latest channeled book, The Evolution of the Spirit of Mankind, the 82nd Regime of Lightworkers. Julie MacDonald, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Kevin. It's great to be here.
It is great to have you on. I was just saying off air there as well that my memory is all over the place. Well, it's literally not there right now. And when I came across your book today and I realized it was a channeled book, I was like, wow, this is just wonderful. Right up my street. And very, very interesting as well. And now I've seen some of your channeling videos because I've watched them. And it resonates with me so much. It really does. I would like to start off, though, at the beginning of this, if there is such a thing as a beginning. Tell me about your sort of upbringing, in a sense, and what sort of experiences did you have as a child?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting whenever anyone asks me that, Kevin, because I had a lot of experiences as a child that I didn't, probably like most people, I didn't realize they were unusual or different. I thought it was what everybody experienced. So I can remember being very young and, again, most of it's in hindsight because spirit to me very often looked the same as people. I mean, they might have looked a little different, but no different than someone who is, has dark skin color or light skin color. It's just someone that looked a little bit different. And it wasn't until I was about 6 years old and we were moving. And I was very upset that we were moving because we couldn't bring my friend Michelle. I remember her name. And my mother was saying, "Oh, you mean your imaginary friend?" And that was the first time that I thought, what is she talking about? Michelle isn't imaginary, she's real. And so from there, and I remember even moving, I can remember as we're driving and I was crying my eyes out. And I remember seeing her, she would show up then on different steps on porches as we were traveling from Connecticut to Vermont, and wave as if to say, "Don't worry, I can come with you." But that was really the first moment where I thought, okay, this is different than what everyone else is experiencing. So as I continued to grow, I would go to my mother at times and say, "Mom, someone's going to die today," or "Mom, something bad is going to happen." And I reckon that I probably also said other things, but families, good Catholic, Irish Catholic families don't remember the good things that I pick up. They remember the bad things. So she would start saying, "Don't say that anymore. Stop saying that. You're making bad things happen." So I started to believe that.
Yeah, you could say that Mum was not that supportive of your gift then.
No, and it's interesting because my mother was very gifted, but I believe she was very afraid of it. She grew up in all Catholic schools, went to Catholic college, taught catechism, all of that. And so I think that there was a lot of, there's a story that I recall when I was about 7 years old, and my mother decided she was reading up on different traditions and religions. And she took a small doll she was making. She was a crafter, and she was angry at my sister. And she stuck a pin in it. And my sister, who was maybe 4 years my senior, she had hit it in my sister's back, just kidding. My sister went out the stairs and slipped on the ice and fell and hurt her back and had to go to the hospital. So that might have been enough to frighten her away from, these sorts of things. And then she just sort of swore off of everything.
Now, with the siblings then, are you the only one with the gift?
I would say no. I'm the only one, however, that has pursued anything within it. I'm the one that has sort of taken it and run with it.
And how have they received your work? How are they with you with the job that you now have taken on board?
My sisters are very supportive. My brothers think I'm crazy. So, and it's interesting because it's my brothers who never really allowed themselves to connect to that, that connection to spirit. So, but my sisters are very supportive of me, yes.
Right. And what was your dad? Was he quite supportive or?
No, my father was actually an alcoholic. So he wasn't really able to be supportive of anything and really wasn't, quite frankly, around a whole lot. So he may not have even known that I had it. And he passed long before I actually accepted this role in my life and did anything with it.
Right. Okay. I bet he's very proud of you now, though.
He's around all the time now.
Yes,
now
yes.
I can't get him to shut up.
Yeah, I thought so. I thought he would be around. That's great. Well, okay then. Let's just move on a bit from there. Early 20s or mid 20s potentially. Where were you in the sense of this gift, and how much had your own alcoholic problem taken effect, and why do you think that drinking problem was there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was actually up until my mid 20s that I drank quite a lot, and certainly was an alcoholic probably from the time I was 15 or 16. And I do believe that a lot of that drinking, I mean, some of it, look, let's face it, it was a little chaotic at home. So that was some of it. But I also firmly believe that because I was so sensitive to everything around me anyway, and drinking helped to push all of that away, not just emotionally, but even in terms of spirit. It could really shut it all down. Certainly there were still moments, there were still times when I would see things or know things, but I didn't really have to do anything about it. So the alcohol really helped. And I was about 25 years old when I stopped drinking. And it was within, a few years of that I like to describe it like a faucet was turned on as though I had never shut it off, because suddenly I was just, it was just running through me. And I really felt like I'm going to lose my mind. I don't know what's happening here, so.
Wow. Okay. So, and what was the catalyst then to stop the drinking, would you say?
Well, it's interesting because I hadn't lost anything physical. I hadn't gotten any legal problems. I had, a husband, a child, a house, a job. My soul, it was like, that was it. It was my soul. It was my spirit. And I do recall, Kevin, one moment that I can recall where I really feel like, okay, spirit intervened. I mean, obviously they were helping all along, but prior to quitting drinking, I felt like I was just doomed to be an alcoholic or something. I didn't know what all of my life. And I actually attempted to kill myself by swallowing a lot of Klonopin. I had been on anti-anxiety medication. Halfway through, I remember saying, okay, God, if you want me to die, then give me the courage to take the rest of these pills. And I heard quite distinctly, if I wanted you to die, I would have already taken care of that.
Wow.
So I put them down and drove back to my sister's and told her I'd taken them. And it was from there that then I realized I really had a problem with using and went to treatment and all of that. So.
Thank you so much for sharing this. I mean, I know it's very raw, and I know you've healed yourself since then. Of course you have. I know you have. But to just be able to share that, hey, we're all human beings. We've all got our own issues. Yeah, we come down here in this reality, and guess what? Things are attractive sometimes, and there's nothing wrong with anything. It's in moderation sometimes, but you know what? And I don't say that with any judgment. It's just we've all got our own issues, but just to see that you've healed yours, and that what abilities have opened, since doing this, it's just incredible. It's a light for a lot of people. It really is powerful stuff. What's even more powerful is when you actually started working in a detox unit, and that's when your abilities became even more powerful even then, because you knew their thoughts.
Right. Yeah, that was the part where I thought, oh my goodness, what is happening to me? I would be running groups. I would know things and say them like, well, what about the time when you did such and such? And it wasn't from reading a chart. I would start to see, I was seeing their auras, but I didn't realize it at the time. But when someone was lying, the energy would change colors and it would grow or it would move. And I'd be like, and I didn't even realize I was reading it. I would just say, you're lying. So it was really, but I remember calling a friend of mine and saying, okay, I'm losing my eyesight. Maybe I'm losing my mind. I don't know how I'm doing this, but I just was. And I knew the one thing I think, Kevin, that kept me going forward in it was seeing the therapeutic benefit that people were having. It didn't matter. It came to a point where I didn't care how I was getting the information. I saw people getting in touch with their pain. I saw people getting in touch and challenging their own selves to grow and to accept love in their lives and things like that. So what did it matter where or why or how?
No, and I think anyone... Well, no, absolutely. I was going to say that I'm quite guilty of that sometimes, where I'm like, oh God, is this really coming through this way? Why? Right. Why couldn't it be a different way? But yeah, but as you say, it doesn't it doesn't matter when you look back with hindsight now, or even in the moment then, it was what it was doing for people, the help it was giving them,
right?
The love as well, yeah. The healing, shall we say?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, and at this time, I believe that... Now, just before I ask you this, actually, are you based in New York now? Were you based in New York then?
I was in New York then. I'm in where am I? Massachusetts. Sorry, I've been traveling recently. I'm like, wait a minute, where do I live? I'm in the Berkshire Mountains of Massachusetts. So
Right, okay.
about 2.5 hours from Boston.
Right, yeah, I can hear that kind of New York accent a little bit. I don't know why, but that's probably why then. And that would make sense because I think, you did get some training, and I believe you went to the Holistic Studies Institute. And you'd have to correct us on this, whether it's part of the Spiritualist Church of New York. You tell us, but you did go to get some training.
Right. Yeah, it is. And actually, when I went, it was Psychic Studies Institute back when I went, and that was pre the Psychic Institute and Spiritualist Center of New York City. That happened many years later. So, yeah, HSI is in Albany, New York, and in Manhattan.
Right. Okay. And what sort of training was that?
It was 4 years of psychic development, basically, different levels. Back then they had very rigorous, it was really like 10 months per class. And a lot of it was, just going in, learning lessons, but sitting a lot in circle with other people, learning meditation, advanced meditation techniques, different levels, going into trance, channeling not so much, but it was more just being involved in trance type of circles. And then I went on to become ordained as well. So I went through their seminary program and became ordained as a spiritualist minister.
Yeah, that's great. That is that you've done that. That really is. What do you what difference do you think that does for you, having gone through that process?
Well, in terms of the becoming ordained, what it did for me more than anything else, quite frankly, is that was my formalized way of making a commitment to serving others in tandem with spirit. So that really, it also helped sometimes when I had people that I cared about that were in ICU and I could go in the middle of the night. But it really is just about that. I was a minister at a church for some time. But more than anything, it's what reminds me that I am here to minister. And it is the way of stepping over that line that absolutely no matter what happens, I cannot and will not step back over again. You understand what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah, completely being of service.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And at that time, what sort of material was influencing you, or was there any?
Oh, that's a good question. The truth is that especially when I started going to training in that, in the beginning, I was reading a lot of material, and I had read like Jane Roberts stuff, the Seth material, but I've got to be honest, that took me a long time to read it. I was like, what? I would have to go back and reread it.
Oh, yeah, it's complicated, yeah.
Yes, and some of the Edgar Cayce material and all of that. By the time I got into my third year, which is the sort of deeper trance level, advanced, all of that, I more or less stopped reading.
Right.
Because I had read a lot of religious stuff, all these different texts, I was voraciously reading almost everything I could get my hands on at the time. And one of my favorite things actually was the Ancient White Brotherhood, which I didn't know until later was also channeled material. Good stuff. I just picked it up last year. I was like, wow, this is good. But around that time, I just stopped reading because as I was having more experiences, I wanted to experience spirit more than read about spirit. I didn't want anything that I was experiencing to, as I'm sure you know, when we're doing this sort of thing, there's always like, is that me? Did I read it somewhere? And of course, we're informed by many things, but I tried to keep my environment as sterile of outside influence as I possibly could.
I know what I so understand what you're saying there, because I constantly go through that process. Am I saying what I've just read? Yeah.
Right.
The problem is, well, it's not a problem. It's my choice. But because of doing this show, it's almost like you have to know. I can't go in like a blank canvas. Otherwise, I'm not going to give a great, as good an interview as I could do. So I have to know some stuff. And so then you're like, okay, yes, but is that influencing you? And in the end, you come up with things in the end that where you have to be really honest with yourself and go to that deeper part of yourself and say, well, actually, maybe it's not. Maybe I'm just repeating what is truth anyway.
Right. And that is, I think that is where I've come to in it, because it is not like I believe that the evolution of the spirit of mankind is a unique teaching, because it's not. And the beings that I work with even said that themselves. They're like, look, we're not telling you anything you don't, that hasn't been told before. We're just doing it in this way for the people to read it at this time for us to reach, And of course, anything that comes through us, this is what they also taught me, and I believe, it is a little bit filtered by our own brain, by our own frame of reference, our own map of the world. There are probably some concepts or teachings that my brain wouldn't understand the words for, or that, that I might even be in opposite. I remember feeling certain times when I could feel, even though I don't remember what I'm saying, I could feel things, or even hear a recording later where they've said, we're going to wait on this because she's fighting us. She's fighting us on this and isn't going to, she's kind of shutting us out. So we'll come back to that another time.
Blocking.
And sure enough, they did. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's exactly what I get told as well. He's blocking it. he's blocking us. And it's interesting this, because on some channel material that I've come across, the guys that come through are actually saying that he doesn't have, or she doesn't have the reference for the material that we need to bring through. Yes. Now, you would think to yourself that if they're bringing new material through, well, they just bring it through, don't they? But apparently, if there's no reference in us for that, it's difficult to bring it through. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. And, it took me a while to swallow that concept when it was actually being taught to me through the work I was doing with the 82nd regime. But the way that they've explained it to me, and to us actually, is that the brain is like a computer system. And so if I were to go onto your computer, Kevin, that you have, that you're filming off of, and I were to try to run a program that is for Mac only, it's not going to work, because the computer is not going to recognize it. It needs to have the scripts and the computer language to be able to make something appear on your screen. And so similarly, there are these files and this data and all of that spirit has to access within our brain system to then be able to tap into that, so we can interpret these thought forms and, or energy beams or whatever it is that they're doing to come through us. If it's not there, it's like opening a blank closet.
When people have come to, thank you for that, by the way, when people have come in, to sit in your presence, to listen to the messages coming through, people are there for all sorts of different reasons. They're there because they need to be there, but some are there to witness, to be in the presence of spirit coming through, especially high dimensional spirit coming through. But it is true to say that maybe they're there because, yes, they've heard previously in a different form what's being told to them at that moment, but they never listened in the first place.
Precisely. And the 82nd regime of light workers talks about that a lot, and they talk about the purpose of this book being for exactly that purpose, that that they're meeting people where they are. And perhaps what's coming through me with them is going to meet certain people. And it could be the same teachings, but they may not hear it from me. Maybe they're going to hear it from Cryon, or maybe they're going to hear it from the Seth material, or maybe they're going to hear it from whatever material you're accessing and putting out there. It's the time and the place, whether the person has the canvas that's ready to be painted upon, and also sometimes the delivery, of just the person or the person's energy or the beings that they're working with as well.
Oh no, watching back to your delivery of the material, had I not gone through what I've gone through, I would have not been too sure. I'm just being honest.
Right.
But
Right.
having my own experience, in this time and that I've been doing it for, oh yeah, with you, when you were bringing that through, there was all these little bits. I was like, oh yeah, I know that, or
Right,
the way,
right.
or what she's saying, or the way she's acting, or the trust that she's putting into that moment. I know where she's coming from. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'll tell you, it's not, for years, Kevin, when I first started doing it, obviously I doubted it, but it was just myself and an assistant or two. So I wasn't being exposed. The first time that I ever did it in public was just like, oh my God, what if I'm making it up? What if it's not real? What if, it wasn't even what if they think I'm false. It's what if I find out that I'm false? Was this huge fear. And what if I'm so nervous that the 82nd can't make it? And pretty much they took care of it. They're just like, they pretty much knocked me out. I mean, within seconds, the energy was so, I was just gone. And it actually took me many hours to come back from that one, because the way they explained it, it wasn't just my anxiety, but with each group that's seated with them, there's different dynamics based on where the person is. So they have to play around with the sort of energy frequencies and harmonics of the room in order to be able to come through fully.
So do you find it quite scary still, even though you're in a trance, you're not absolutely present? Is that quite nervous for you still?
And going into trance isn't nervous. I love it. It's the best thing since I gave up drinking. It really is.
Absolutely.
It's like it's great, and you even get to forget things. So and I joke about it, but it's so true. There is no drug out there in the world that's as good as going into a deep level trance and just sort of starting to fly out there into the ethers, that feeling of weightlessness, that feeling of moving through these tunnels or dimensions or anything like that is incredible.
Going back home to where you came from, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. But is there any apprehension there though when still in front of audiences? Now, yeah, okay,
in front of audiences,
yeah.
Yes, absolutely. It's the same. I'll be honest with you, even when I'm doing just regular like mediumship demonstrations or even a reading, all of these years later, I still say I don't get nervous with those. I just say, gee, I hope someone shows up. And that's the same thing with them. Now it's like, well, I hope they decide to show up and talk, because otherwise this will be awkward.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you that, I don't go into trance. I'm quite present, and that is very nervous for me. And I'm very nervous. So yes, you may be in trance and still a bit nervous. I'm still nervous out of trance and
Right.
doing it in that state. So I don't know if there's any easy options sometimes, really.
Right.
Right. I will say this though, it has changed for me drastically in the past month. It's now a voice in my right side, and it whispers in my ear, and I'm just repeating it. Now that was never like that. It was more of it was more unconsciously, just bringing it through as we speak now. It's
Right.
there's other things doing the processing to bring these. It was more like that, and as that voice connection's there for a while, it then turns into this. As in this constant flow of information where it's less of the voice there, but it seems to disappear and it's just coming out. But
Right.
it is. But the process for you, obviously, is you are, well, I'm in a deeper state trance, and you don't remember as much of the information coming through. You're not as present.
Right. Yeah, and honestly, once I go into trance, pretty much the nervousness isn't there, although I can recall a couple of times. It's because when that's happening, when I go into a pretty deep state of trance, it's almost like I'm sitting or standing overlooking, and I'm watching the process. But I'm always looking out over these vast valleys, like I'm on this cliff or something. And sometimes I'm having commentary, right? As my voice is putting words out, I'm back here saying, really, is that accurate? So there's moments when I can draw that. Or if you talk to me about what was shared afterward, I get all the visual back, so I'll know it. But if no one was to say to me what was spoken about, within 2 hours, I won't have a clue. It's like a dream, right? When we wake up from a
Yeah.
dream, if we
That's
remember
true.
one piece of it
Yep.
and we start talking about it or writing it, more comes back.
Yep.
But if we say, oh, I'll remember that, then in 2 hours, we're like, what was that dream? I don't know.
I wonder why we do what we do. I mean, you would have your own answer for that. I'm still struggling with it sometimes. Like, I wish I wasn't. It's almost like there's part of me that wants to be in this, other world. Yeah. As in, and the other world I'm talking about is, what was before, in my life before this.
Right. Yes.
Right. Pre that, yeah. Just to be with those people. And then there's other side of me which is like, okay, yeah, but look at this. Look at the help you could give people, because it's all about. It all comes down to it's teaching knowledge without with never being told. You know what they say? It's something that you said in yours as well. Is that this is just our truth as we understand it. You have to make your own truth up.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, and I think that. Well, yes. Aside from the high, I think that one of the other things. I'll be honest. The longer that I do it, Kevin, it really comes down to. It is in my blood. It is. I get emotional when I talk like this because I cannot imagine. I don't want to go back to. Yeah, sure. Sometimes I think, can I just go have my regular 9 to 5? But I really don't want to. I don't want that kind of existence. If tomorrow morning I woke up and this connection was gone, I'm sure that maybe I'd find a purpose, but it would seem so dry, empty, and meaningless.
And that's that connection back home. That's
Yeah.
that. Yeah. I mean, you can't explain that to someone, but
Right.
you've got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I wish I was more like you, but then I am getting better in the sense that there's no wrong or right. It's when I'm in trance doing the channeling. Yeah, I'm fine. But I'm like that little kid just before, chucking all the dummies out on the prams and everything out, and not wanting to do what he's told and go and do it.
You know what, though, Kevin? That's not you. Believe me, if you had a little camera in my house from day to day, when I'm told, to go, like recently I had to take a trip to Savannah, Georgia. I mean, not that that's a bad place, but, I'm stomping around in graveyards without even knowing why, to go and start doing ritual to bring healing here, there, and, I mean, it's crazy. And I'm like, what do you want from me? No, I'm not doing this. I have to go back and, I need to do some readings now, guys, because someone's got to pay this bill for traveling.
Yeah.
So I absolutely throw temper tantrums. So let me not misrepresent. but in the end, I do it. Because in the end, I also know that aside from the constant tapping that won't let me rest if I don't, there's always beauty in it. There's always moments of even I sometimes will be like, well, will you look at that? I mean, you just can't make it up.
Oh, absolutely. And obviously with the group that you're channeling, the 82nd Regime of Light, this is very different communicating with them and tuning into them compared to giving a mediumistic reading, a psychic reading for people. And just explain that difference as well for people.
Yeah, it's I'll try my best. When I'm working with the 82nd Regime of Light workers, again, I'm going into a trance state. It's more about specific teachings, all of that. Although I will admit that there are times, and people have pointed it out, people that have sat with them have pointed out that there's times when they start to see a little bit of their influence beginning to come through. When I've done radio shows, but it's usually when I start going into like some teaching, and even with clients it's happened. But for the most part, with clients, if I'm doing, whether it's mediumistic or whether it's psychic, just like you and I are talking right now, I'm accessing their guides, I'm accessing their higher self to look and see what the choices are, what the options are in their lives, to look at the best road to take, or I'm connecting with their ancestors or loved ones on the other side directly. Whereas with the 82nd Regime, that's sort of, they sort of are here with me, around me, and in me, and it's mostly their agenda.
Yes.
It's their agenda.
Yes, yeah, you are part of that group, let's face it.
Right.
You're part of the 82nd Regime. And I love the name. It's so different.
I got to tell you, Kevin, that was the hardest thing about it. I was so mad. I'm like, seriously, the 82nd regime of light workers? Are you kidding me? Can't we just have a nice, like, the cosmos or the angelic, and really it really for a long time bothered me. And I was like, I don't want to put that on there. I'm just going to put it like anonymously channeled. Of course, I didn't really have a choice, right? So again, yeah, I was throwing a temper tantrum and why can't it be this? But it is what it is. I still don't completely know. I don't completely know what it is.
You see, I like that name. I don't know. To me, it's a pretty cool name, but I resonate so much with you, right? Because I don't like the name The One sometimes. I'm like, the what? The One? Yeah. I'm like, what happened to the name, Seth or Bashir or Krian? The one.
Right.
But I've gained to respect it and love it. And but I'm being honest, just how it was for me. I understand how it was for you. I do.
Right.
Right. So yes, thank you for sharing that. Yeah. But yeah, it's the same thing. But I always think to myself, I can't remember if I've asked them. I might have asked them this, but all these different channels, they everything is one in a sense.
Right.
They must know each other. These different channels are they the same channels?
Right, and giving different identity. It's a great question, and I know the group that I work with has said before, like, and I don't even know if it was in the book. It might have been when we were looking into some other things, but they've said, they did say it in the book. They said, we, even if you aren't connecting directly with us, know that we connect with those that you connect with. So I think in some ways they are saying that, and based on how they've described the world of spirit, or even those beings that commit to bringing the teachings through direct communication in this way, they've shown, like, if you look on the cover of the book, right, it shows all of these dots, that is basically the description. That is what they're showing us, like it's all connected like that, but there are different ways that it goes through. Here and there, and sometimes it enlarges, sometimes it expands or decreases, and it goes in, out, up, down. So it's almost like information highway, right, of spirit and these sort of collective beings.
Yeah. That now that makes sense for the cover. I do like the cover, but now that's sort of connects the dots, if you if you want to call it that.
Right.
Absolutely. Because initially, when you started channeling in 1995, or spontaneously channeling, they called themselves, or referred to themselves as the Legion of Light. Have I got that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's funny how they've, I wanted to say transfigured or transformed the name to this newer identity, but I think it's just a name. I don't think it really. We know us humans have to put names on everything, don't we?
Right. Yeah, and I agree. I always think they did it on purpose because just to push me a little bit more. Because and they have said, like, they don't want names. They don't. We gave them, like, the uncle, the grandfather. They gave us one name. And even when they gave it to us, she said, you can call me by the code name. And they talked about that a lot. I don't know how much we put in the book, but they talked a lot about when we give you a specific name, you overly identify with us, and then you put your own ideas on us, and we are not here to be identified. We're here to share this information. It really doesn't matter what category. It really doesn't matter what, so I think they just really said, hey, let's make her say we're this, and then left and had a cigar or something. I don't know.
Yeah, and absolutely. And, we're laughing right now, and that's how it should be. I think another thing I want to say here is that sometimes this work is taken so seriously. Yeah.
Yes.
And it doesn't need to. I remember my channeling telling me from day one, how about having a laugh?
Yeah.
It did. It told me that. It told me I was too serious. And I was taking it, and I think that's an important part, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And I've seen in a couple of different public channeling sessions I've done because the 82nd regime, they have a sense of humor, and they use humor quite a bit, and they'll throw it in the middle of some deep, philosophical teaching, and they'll just slam it in there like a boomerang. And, listening back or having my assistant say, nobody, like everyone sat there so serious and stoic, like the spirits are speaking, we must be. So it would go past them, or they were afraid to like let go enough to just laugh, at the group or at themselves.
Absolutely, and that's important. That I just wanted to add that in there. Okay, well, I mean, this is such an incredible book as well, and there's many chapters in this book with great information, and I do want to get to those chapters. It's just there's also some interesting parts still to talk about, I think, in this process that you went through. Now, in your own understanding, how long did the book take to, well, from initially channeling and getting them the stuff dictated? What was that process to being published?
Well, it really, if we were to go back, because some of the chapters in it, we were told, okay, you have to use this information from earlier. So, but from when I said, really, okay, fine, we'll write it down, or we'll take it down. That would be a total between that and doing all of the sessions and taking recorded stuff to put it into words and editing. It was a process of about 8 years.
Now, did it have to be that long?
Probably not. I want to blame Spirit. I want to say, oh, you made it so difficult. But the truth is that one, I dragged my feet for a long time to start. Two, even once we started, and I've got to say, Yves Nazon, who was my assistant, my main assistant in this, was incredible and amazing and was on me all the time about, hey, Julie, we haven't had a session in a long time. When's a session? Listen, I'm busy right now, So I dragged my feet a lot. And I also dragged my feet a lot in sort of putting it out there to publishers. And then there was a period of about 9 months where Spirit, we sat down with them. We're like, no one's grabbing it. And they said, yeah, because you already missed the window. So just sit tight for a little while. Don't do anything. We'll tell you when it's a go. Sure enough, they said, like, go. And then within 2 months, I had a publisher. So,
yeah, because that's incredible as well. Because a lot of people with channel material have gone self-published. Not everyone, obviously, but a lot. So right. to get published, well done. Hats off to you.
Thank you. Yeah, it wasn't an option to self-publish. So, they were involved in every step of the way, not just the material. And a lot of people kept saying, oh, we'll just self-publish. And I check again. They're like, no. Why? I don't know. But they just said no. So again, I'm not, I wasn't about to put 8 years of committing myself to putting this work out for them and then say, well, I'm going to do it anyway. What sense would that make? No. Obviously, they know better than I do.
Yes, absolutely.
At least I hope so, Kevin.
Oh, I think they've got your best interest at heart as well, and everyone else's. And obviously, there's another book coming. I know that, but yes. This next process for this next book, obviously, I don't think it's going to take 8 years to do the next book.
I don't think so either. No. I don't think so either. So I believe it's already begun. And because some of what they've talked about is that some of the material that when I'm out doing public sessions now, some of the questions that the audience is asking is going to be used, but more of it will be sorting through like them saying, yes, this, and not that. And of course, some, I'm sure from what I can tell, they'll take some of what they talk about and then have us sit down and perhaps do some more elongated. My overall sense, though, is that this is 3. And we started with the evolution of the spirit of mankind. I don't know the title of the next, I don't think, but I believe that it's related. So they're really talking about the mind, the heart, body, and mind, of the human. And this is kind of, so we're really looking now at, if we look at our world right now, it's going to be a little more modern, present day of everything that's going on. How do we deal with it? How do we affect change? How do we walk with these wounds that we have? As the world is spinning right now. So it's going to be a lot more directly about present day stuff.
Yes.
I think.
Yes.
Who knows?
Yes, absolutely. Yep, I could see that. I could feel that as well. But like you say, when this process starts, and it may have already started, that'll become
Right.
clearer. There's a lot of trust in that, isn't there? Bringing a book through, because
Yes.
I mean, how do you know how many words makes up a book? Sometimes, depending on how much time you're putting to each chapter, and
Right.
I mean, but they've got it all worked out, haven't they?
They do. And it's funny because again, working with some assistants, they would say, well, when we went through it all, and then I had to sit with spirit, right, and say, what are we putting in? What are we not putting in? Put this in, take that part out and they would say, oh, but this is a really good part. We have to put it in. I'd be like, no, sorry, we can't. And sometimes they'd get mad at me like, no, I'm like, look, just listen, we are in charge. We didn't start out in charge. What makes you think that we're in charge now? So, yeah, absolutely from start to finish, they know exactly what they're doing so much more than we do. So it's about letting go, really.
As the books gone to print now, and you're meeting more people that have come across your material, or however they've sort of come into your space, maybe it's just virtually as well online. What has been the reception of the book?
Actually, the reception has been much more welcoming and warm than I anticipated. Because again, once you let it go, right, it's like, yeah, I don't know if this is, maybe we spent 8 years because one person has to read it, for all I know. But I was actually surprised and encouraged, I think, Kevin, too, that when people would say, wow, this is really some good stuff. And a lot of people are saying, yeah, a lot of it's not anything I haven't heard, but it's the presentation, it's the way it feels when I'm reading it, it's the direction or the reminder, and to have people, that I respect, saying things about it and how important it is and how grateful they are that I said yes to it. It is very, again, it's encouraging. It's so that when those moments when I'm like, oh, but I don't know what people think, where it helps to move that out of the way a lot more. Just by, again, even if, who knows, maybe I made it up, but you know what? People are responding to it in a way where they feel it's helping them. And that's all that matters.
Absolutely. When yeah, and if the message comes from love, and you're healing people in that process, like you say, you just have to move that to one side, no matter where it came from. It's the quality, isn't it, of the message?
Right.
But I know what you're saying. I have the same issue as well. Do not think I think we all do, and I think it's healthy to have that as well sometimes, but not to be addicted to that side and not let expansion come in as well at the same time.
Yeah, I think it's a healthy thing because I believe that if I didn't ever question, that is when I'm in the most danger of sort of setting and following my own personal agenda, which probably would really screw people up a lot and not heal them.
Yeah, me too. Don't worry about that. Me too. Now, I know. Okay, let's just move to the book a little bit here as well. And I don't want to give too much away because it's well, it's not that we've got the time to really be honest with you. But I mean, obviously, do you think there's an energetic transfer when reading this book as well?
I do. I absolutely do. I mean, you might know better because you were, you've read it, but not only from what the spirit has said about that, but people talking to me about as they're reading the pages, they feel the energy of them. They feel a shift. They feel something beginning, around or within them. So yeah, I do believe so.
I've been told, and this is just my truth from what I've channeled through, that there is infinitive levels to go to. Right, and that's just the truth of the one. So it's just their truth, as they say. Do not take it serious. It's just their truth. Whatever feels right, go with it. I wonder what level the 80-second regime of light work is at. Not that we need to say what it's level 10 or level 12, but I mean, is it quite a high level? Do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. That's the other thing that I think sometimes is their play on their name. I always think like that 82 has something to do with a position or, perhaps a numerologist or a mathematician or a quantum physicist could figure it out. I do know that I've worked with many different energies.
It feels very high to me because of what happens to my body. But and they would like smack me upside the head anyway, really, to talk too much about that, because they're, again, to them, even, it's not high low, it doesn't just go up and down. And they talk about this in the book, that it goes outward and inward and
Oh, yes.
crosswise and all of that. But in terms of energetic frequency, I've been told from others, and this is my best guess because I'm used to them now, right? I've been told by others that sitting in their presence, they definitely feel that the energy frequency of this group is quite high. If they've sat with others before, and again, but it's not about comparative, it's just about where they come from. It doesn't mean the information's any better.
No, absolutely, because and I think it's very important to say at this point as well that they do not want a following,
right?
That they do not want to be idolized.
Right.
They are there simply as to present a different way of being.
Mm-hmm. Personally, I would love to be idolized, though. If anyone would like to idolize me, you're fine with. No, I'm just kidding. Right? They don't want that. They don't want that. Nor do I.
No. It's quite. You have to watch out for that sometimes, don't you? That you don't want to. I can't think of the word right now, but you don't need idolization. It's more of a case of, just presenting the teaching information as clearest as possible.
That's right.
I mean, I just hate the judgmentalness more than anything, but that's my own issue. I'll fix that. I will.
You will.
Yeah.
You will. I mean, look, the reality is that in this world of ours, we're always being judged.
Yeah.
So what I've come to with it is, well, you could judge me for this, or you could judge me for, like falling down drunk, 25 years ago, or any number of things in between. But what other people think of me is really not any of my business at this point.
No, great. Well said. But I have to say, I do love my family very much. Everyone has been so supportive, and so have some of my friends, a lot of my friends as well. So I really, what more can I, I do appreciate that so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. How have your friends taken your line of work now? Or is this a new line of friends that are sort of coming into your path as well?
A lot of my friends are friends, as a result of over the years of changing the places that I am and the things that I'm doing. So they've absolutely been very supportive. I have some, we all have these like childhood friends, right? Who, and for the most part, even though they may think like, yeah, whatever, Julie, they will laugh about it or joke, but they still, and I'm sure they probably think she's nuts, but they're still kind to me and they're still friends with me.
That's great.
So I can't really ask for anything more than that. Not everybody's going to agree. Not everybody's going to believe. And I think for the most part, any friends that really were against it have long since walked away.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think what annoys me sometimes as well is that to me, the information you yourself is coming out with and others in this field, it's such great information. Yet it just doesn't get the exposure that I think it deserves. And you've got all these other people, making all these other content on YouTube and getting massive viewing figures, and it's like, well, you try to keep it in balance that they are attracting the consciousness that's at their level. That's what's coming through from they are attracting the consciousness that's at their level. So and there's nothing wrong with being at different levels. It's just what's at that level at the time. And that's not putting anything on a bigger pedestal or anything like that. It's just different horses for different courses.
That's right. Yeah, I sometimes feel the same way, Kevin. And, when you were asking about the book, I mean, it's been well received by people who are reading it, that it is a struggle to try to get places to agree to have me chat. They're like, no, well, why don't you come and do a message circle? We'd love that. Or why don't you come and do readings? We're not really sure that our people are ready for this. And I say, are you kidding me? Look at Abraham Hicks. Look at Cryon. People are ready for it. People are, they've got masses of people. What do you mean people don't understand what it is? But then I have to step out of the way because that's Julie. right? That's my ego thing. That's my, even when I say ego, I don't mean like, oh, it's more of like, I have a job to do, damn it, and I'm going to do it.
Yes.
And I forget that the 82nd is still, yes, it does take footwork, obviously, right? If I used footwork, the book would have been done 4 years ago. But so I have to get out there and hit the pavement. But at the same time, at the end of the day, I have to let it go to them, and I have to come back and sit before them and say, now what?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know?
And you do not know what's around the corner neither with this work.
No.
You do not know what's around the corner. You think you do. We all think we do, but actually we don't. And you might be very surprised what's in store. And maybe you're not ready for it just yet. Maybe that's why it's that little bit of, just building things up. I don't know. I'm just saying.
Right.
It's easy for me to say these things, and I hate when people say it to me, but I'm just saying.
but one day I will say that to you, Kevin. So, but you're right. We don't know. We may say, here's my task, here's my chore, but Spirit knows much better than I what I need to do to prepare to be able to deliver it the best way I can to people, whether it's to wider audiences or whether it means, okay, yeah, that's enough of that. We're going to do the other book now, and then it will pick. I don't know. I just have to not give up.
No, you're just going to do the opposite. You're going to show up. And
Right.
by showing up,
Right. Very good.
that's where it's
Yeah.
going to come through. And I think you're going to be doing that more and more. And I think probably, this work will take a massive lead in what you're doing. And it's just, yeah. I'm not saying you would never do the readings and stuff like that. I'm just, there's just
Right.
there might be a call and there might be a choice to make. Who knows? There might be.
Right.
Yeah.
There might be.
Now, obviously, abundance is a big subject in this book as well.
Yes.
That's covered in a few chapters. But it's interesting because it's coming from abundance from a different principle in one sense.
Yes. Yeah, and that it's funny because that's one of the chapters that we were like, oh, people aren't going to like this very much. As a matter of fact, I can recall earlier on them taking some of that and writing it. They said, put it in articles, or something like this, write this down and put it out. And there were some periodicals that were taking all my articles whenever I sent them, which wasn't very often. But when I sent that, boom, no way. We don't want to deal with that. We don't want to. And so for the people watching, this is, and again, Spirit's very clear about this. The 82nd is very clear. They are not putting down other teachings. What they're saying is that we're expanding upon a principle that is only partly being looked at lately, which is this sort of, you can have everything you want. All you have to do is align with it. That is true in and of itself. And a lot of what they talk about, however, is a couple of things. One is, and how much of that is your ego that is just trying to get it, right? So it doesn't mean you're being more spiritual, right? And also how much of it is your fear of things, and also how much is that, yes, enough is available for all, but perhaps you're here now to remember that, to be able to share with others. It's not about you just getting forward. I mean, if we look around the world, that's so much poverty. I get emotional. At so much that is not just. That Spirit's idea or the principle of this is not just oh, great, now I can get more money. It's about reminding us that we are all equal, that we all are together, and that if I get more money, then it's not just about me getting a better house or this or that, but it's about me reaching out to my brother or my sister and saying, you are my brother and my sister, and sharing that with them, or taking their hand and helping them upward. That's what abundance available for all means. It doesn't mean I can have 5 yachts. Well, I can have 5 yachts, but is that really the principle? Not so much.
Without being an overcaring caretaker.
Right, exactly. That's why, that's what I said, lift them up as well, help them to change. But the reality is right now, Kevin, as I'm sure you know, that in our world right now, it's not enough sometimes to just go and say, well, you can make your life better because of the systems, because of the way that things are set up. There are some people that can't just go out and say a mantra and make their lives better because of the systems in place.
No, absolutely. And you look at the news that's not reported as well with these refugee camps right now,
Right.
and what a appalling state people are living in.
Right.
And it's not
Right.
really in the mainstream news because it's not sexy anymore in the sense that
Right.
the ways that news makes news so scary and fearful. Yet all
Right.
this is all happening as me and you speak right now, and it will keep on happening for a long time. After this conversation, the
Right.
world is in a painful place, and that's one thing that the message comes through for the one as well, is in the sense that we need to come together, we need to realize that we're all connected, and that it doesn't need to be so painful. We do it the most painful way possible.
Right.
We
Right.
we really do.
Absolutely.
And what you just said there as well about the sharing principle as well, in a sense. I get told from my channeling that it's my purpose in the not too distant future to set up a spiritual TV network that is what is going to give back and and bring people together in a sense.
Right.
And it's kind of like, if it's going to take money to do that, a lot of money,
Right.
but it's almost like, that money is not just to be idolized and sat upon and not shared. That money is going to go back. So I kind of
Right.
understand what you're saying. Do you know what I mean? And if that's an analogy that people get as well, then I hope
Right.
it is. But yeah, I do appreciate what you're saying.
Yeah, and well, that's a beautiful purpose, to do that, because you can, in doing that, there are so many people that you can reach that might not be exposed or might not, have the money to go to, a 3-day symposium with, do you know what I mean, or anything like that. So you can reach so many people in that way.
Yes.
And I think another important piece that I just want to add here
Sure.
too, that feels right to me, is when we talk about people in the refugee camps and all of that. Yes, we could go into past lives, we could go into contracts and choices. All of that is true. However, it doesn't mean that they're not working spiritual principles correctly. And that's one of the things that the 82nd always does try to get through also, because there's a very modern kind of look. As human beings, we like to put ourselves above, we like to be condescending, we like to judge. And I'm not saying this is the teachings, but that people have taken the teachings just to separate, even those that are supposed to be more spiritual, to find more separation, just like we've done with religions, right? To say, oh, well, if this person is poor, that's because they don't believe they can have everything. Well, not exactly, yes, I mean, ultimately, but there's a lot more of layers and levels to that.
Right, and I just want to add something to that. That's so true what you're saying there. Absolutely agree with you. I do. I really do. And I think every day, if I go back to past interviews, I may have said something different and agree with someone else or something else. But every day,
Right.
I'm allowed to make up a new truth. We all are.
That's
As we
absolutely-
expand our consciousness and become more aware of maybe what this is all about, or what's right and what's wrong. And I'll add to that in the sense that, yes, we can look into, they may have, these refugees or people that are suffering right now in war-torn countries. You could say, well, it's they've chosen to come down here. It's the karma they're paying back, whatever it may be. And like you said, all these things may be true, but that doesn't take away from the point of view that, do we ignore the suffering? Do we
Right.
just say, well, that's it's my spiritual path to believe in that, and, we
Right.
just forget it. What about the now? Now, Marianne Williamson would say this as well, that it's you cannot ignore the suffering, no matter what its principles may be built upon why they're in this situation.
Right.
It's almost
Right.
like not caring for your brother or sister.
Absolutely. It is like saying, well, gee, this kid that went down the slide and bounced off of it, fell and cracked his head open. Listen, I'm not going to call 911 because you know what? He went down that slide. I mean, he knew that he could fall, so why help him? It's really the same thing.
Yes, and I feel that so deeply a lot of times, and I forget that, then I'll remind myself of that I feel that way, then I'll forget it. Because we get stuck in the mundane because we're just trying to survive ourselves, aren't we? A lot of us, and
Oh, yeah.
get through life. But are we all that happy sometimes by not looking at these bigger principles, by not looking at a different way of being that may
Right.
teach us something greater? And I think, but again, it all comes down to depending where some people are consciously will depend upon whether whatever resonates with them where they need to be as well. I think that's true, but that doesn't
Right.
stop you and me and others, shining our truth and saying, well, there is another,
Right.
Let's not ignore, though. Do you know what I mean? That's what what I'm saying. And I think that's so strong what you're saying there. I feel that we cannot ignore, and I think whatever I do in life, I must remind myself of that as well. So thank you.
Right.
For helping,
yeah. Well, thank you.
For sharing that. Now, there was lots of stuff that was left out of the book as well, wasn't there?
Yes, there was a lot of stuff that was left out of the book. And obviously, some of it is because Spirit just felt like, where we're heading, where we're putting this right now. People aren't ready for that part of it, or there was so much left out of Dreamtime for personal and spiritual growth. You have no idea, and that's one of the longest chapters too. But there was probably another 4 hours of channeled stuff that was just left out, where they decided afterward, or even in it, sometimes they would say, "Okay, now we want to tell you more about this, but this is not going. Mark this spot on the recording right now. This is not for the book." Because also some of it was them giving us directions for the book, not only in terms of sit down and, in 3 days and do this, but also when our own egos, our own stuff or anything got in the way, believe me, we got a lecture. Do you know what I mean? We got lectured for it. Sometimes lovingly, but other times like, look, this is just how it is, and you've made this contract, you've made this commitment, so these are the things that are in your way right now, handle them.
Interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting. Okay, yeah, absolutely. There's appendices, the parallel lives, multidimensional selves, beyond 2012 and everything else. We are going through a major change right now, though, aren't we?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, absolutely. We absolutely are. And I think that, look, things are always changing. Our world is always changing. And if we look at the past, we can, we see that. But I really do believe that everything is getting louder, right? The peaceful voices are getting louder. The violent voices are getting louder. And everything, the sort of contrast, right, is getting so stark. It's so much clearer because this is a time, and Spirit talks about this in one of the epilogue, or not the epilogue, one of the appendix, which was when they were talking about 2012, which I waited too long. We didn't put it up. We didn't put it in there, but where they say, like, look, this is your time. And yes, this is the age of Aquarius. I don't think they use those words. There is a quickening, but understand, it's still up for grabs what happens. So yes, the intention is that through all of this, change will come, that through all of this, you will all lift up. But understand and make no mistake that it doesn't mean to rest on your laurels because, hey, it's all taken care of. It's the age of Aquarius, right? So there's a lot in that chapter that wasn't in, and the parallel lives, multidimensional selves. Really good stuff, though. That is some good stuff that we didn't put in because, again, they were like, well, let's wait a little bit for that.
Obviously, you're the custodian of this work right now as well, and you probably feel very precious, that you want to, present it the right way, and that there's more to come as well. Where are you going right now? Is it just all about this first book, or where would you like to take it?
Yeah, I don't, that's a really good question. And depending on the day that you ask me, Kevin, I would probably change my answer. Yeah, I believe in this book, in these teachings, because it's become such a part of me because it's gone through me, right? So, and I believe in the ministry of this book. And so where would yes, my goal doesn't mean it's the same as theirs. We'll see. But my goal is to get out there more. It is to be on the road. It is to carry it, across to other places, to work on whatever comes next with it, and to, just continue to be an open vehicle and channel for the next parts, to be able to give to people. One of the other things on the side that I sometimes ignore is that they've talked about, doing like companion things, more like a workbook, or even having me do workshops around some of the things, breaking down their teachings, where I wouldn't necessarily be channeling, but they will have, worked with me to get me to that point. So basically, honestly, the truth is, what I want more than anything, where I want to take it more than anything, is I want to serve these beings in the way that serves my brothers and sisters and mankind and the earth and all of that to the highest possible extent in whatever limited time I have left here on earth right now.
Well, that's very powerful. That is, Julie, very powerful. And what would you say then, or could you, is maybe the most powerful message or the most important message, should we say, of this book?
Yeah, wow. Yeah, how do you? Just that we really are all, you talk about the one, and that is what we all are. That we really are one, and that all of this divisiveness, all of this separation, all of these things that we have bought into and created, right, in order to look at these different pieces and parts of us, the parts we like, the parts we don't, in other people, and all of that, but that ultimately the goal is that love is something that does heal and cure all things. That love is not an emotion, that love is a state of being, and that if we can allow ourselves to love, then that fear, and behind the fear is the anger and all of that stuff that makes us greedy, that makes us angry, that makes us judgmental. All of that stuff begins to go away because all of it just comes from a fear of not being important enough, a fear of not getting our just due. And like they say in the book, there's nothing we've ever had and there's nothing that we'll ever lose. When we can really grasp that, then love and joy and laughter is simple.
And your websites. Thank you so much for that beautiful message. That was just thank you. That was absolutely just the right message. And your websites as well, just so we've got them both.
Yeah. So we have Medium Julie MacDonald. That's MAC. .com and the evolution of the spirit of mankind.com.
And people can get in contact with you for a reading via Skype, via the website. Yeah, they can go right through my website and they can book phone or Skype sessions with me. They can also go. I don't think it's updated right now, but they can go to see where I'm going to be. I'm going to be in Chicago again, and I'm sort of making my rounds doing different things. So, and also I do have a Facebook page, Medium Julie MacDonald, and they can find out about stuff there. Perfect. Well, Julie MacDonald, just thank you so much for joining us today. I can't wait to get you back on, and I'm sure our paths will cross in the future, but thank you so much.
You're very welcome, Kevin. Thanks so much for the opportunity and for all of your hard work that you're doing to bring all of these teachings out to so many. Many blessings to you.
Well, we've come to an end on tonight's show. Don't forget that you can listen and watch all our past interviews on The More Show's official YouTube channel. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel for new daily shows. You may also find out more on our past and upcoming guests on the show via themoreshow.co.uk, and do like us on Facebook and Twitter for the latest updates. So until next time, be safe.